Well, John gave me a little bit of guidance about what to talk about today. So I'm going to talk about my program at Magnet, which I run the incubator at Magnet. I'm going to talk a little bit about incubation and what we call incubation and why it's important, how Magnet helps, and this whole regional entrepreneurial ecosystem thing you've heard about. So another thing that I take my entrepreneurs through is kind of asking them a bunch of so what questions. Entrepreneur will come into me and say, I'm going to make this product, and here's my value proposition, here's why someone in the market should care, and I just start basically asking them, so what, so what, so what? Because usually the first thing they say either doesn't make any sense or isn't really a value proposition. So to me, the so what about this presentation is, one of the things I was briefly going to touch on is educational programs around the region to help you understand what it means to be an entrepreneur, but I understand from talking to John that you've had a lot of the educational programs come through, so I won't really touch on that, but there are a ton. Most of the universities and colleges have entrepreneurship as either a major, a minor, or a special interest. So if you think you want to do something on your own, once you get into college, I'd definitely recommend looking into that. As you hear these presentations, you're going to find and continue to find there's a ton of resources around the region if you want to start a business, or even if you just want to talk to folks about, I've got an idea, and is this, I have people come in my office all the time. I had this idea, is this stupid? Is there something here? So we can kind of talk through that. And then hopefully if any of these videos work, we can show you or talk to you about, there's lots of cool things happening in Northeast Ohio, and there's some fun things happening right in my incubator. So what's this thing called incubation? That's a graphic of the building we're in. That's what our building looks like. There's formal definitions of incubation, of incubators and all this, but I found this next slide online, and it's pretty much what happens. If you think of an incubator as eggs hatching in an incubator, this is what we do. This is me running the incubator. These are all my little incubator tenants. So they come in, a lot of times they don't have product. Sometimes they don't even have business plans. All they have is hopes and dreams. They think they've got something. And what an incubator does is we help them hatch, basically. So we connect them with resources. We help them work on their business plan. We might get them money. We help them prove out their technology. We help them move across this thing we'll see pretty soon called the Innovation Continuum. But basically the goal of an incubator is to get that company to the point where they're selling their product in the marketplace and making money, and they can stand on their own 2 feet. So we help startup companies grow. So we help them with management. So a lot of times when folks come in an incubator, it's just one person. So we'll actually, in a sense, be part of their management team, and we can coach them as to what they need to do. We can connect them with folks that are part of their management team. The biggest thing, I think, is we connect them with programs and services. And what's happening in the region now is a lot of the incubators are starting to specialize. So I'm really specialized, we'll see in a second, on startups that either need advanced engineering or manufacturing assistance. They're making a product. Has Youngstown been out? Youngstown Business Incubator focuses on business-to-business software companies. The Akron Incubator focuses on kind of a mix of biotech and industrial. So when you focus, that means that you can bring specialized programs and services to those startups and those entrepreneurs that are coming in your incubator. It also means that when you focus, the majority of the tenants and entrepreneurs in your incubator are in the same space. So they start networking with each other and helping each other out. A big thing about incubation is we have physical space. And that's different than some programs. There are virtual incubators where there's no physical building, and you just are helped either in person or over the phone. There's also this thing called accelerators. Have you guys heard of accelerators? Y Combinator, Techstars, any of that kind of stuff? Accelerators are usually IT focused, and their model is they'll have a competition. They'll identify 10 really promising companies. They'll give you $25,000 for living expenses for the next 2 months, and then they have a structured process. They really rush you through the process of defining your business model, They'll connect you to IT resources to help you build your website and all that kind of stuff. And then after that 6 weeks, you present to investors and hopefully you get an investment. So that's an accelerator, not necessarily physically space-bound. It's more about the process that they put you through. And there's lots of types of incubators now. I'm what's called a mixed-use incubator because I do a lot of different things. There's kitchen incubators, there's arts incubators, there's just all kinds of incubators. Anybody that wants to start a business these days, there's an incubator for them. And why is it important? Basically, it's important because we're helping to start new businesses. So hopefully we're adding to the economy, we're creating jobs, we're generating revenue, and outside investment is really kind of revenue as well. No, okay. So this is a video that Jumpstart did of me just talking about the incubator program and some of the resources in the region. I think there's a couple things that entrepreneurs get out of an incubator. First, and lots of folks have different opinions on this, but I think the physical space is a big part of what defines an incubator. And I think lots of entrepreneurs can do lots of great work out of their garage and their basements and their kitchen tables. But I really think there is something that happens when you make the decision to move into an incubator and kind of take that next step and formalize. So that's important. I think the other thing in an incubator is, and I hear this all the time from my tenants, is you're part of an entrepreneurial community and you're working in and around other folks that have the same dreams, the same goals, the same passions. I think it's kind of the formal community and physical space and programs and services, and then all these intangibles that happen around being around a community of like-minded folks and people that can help you. I think manufacturing is going to be an absolute critical component of the entrepreneurial community in Northeast Ohio. I think until such time that we're fully a 100% service nation, people are always going to make things. And I think what's great about Northeast Ohio and what we see within Magnet is, entrepreneurs are great with coming up with the idea. A lot of them are even pretty good at kind of showing that it can work, creating a little prototype at home. But there's a big gap between knowing that the technology will work and kind of having a functional prototype and understanding what it means to take that into a commercial context, design and engineer a product that's manufacturing ready and can withstand consumer use in the marketplace. And I think that's what we do and what the region can do is help folks take that prototype, take that idea, and really turn it into a product that they can sell. I think the region is just rich with partners, formal and informal. The Incubator at Magnet, we're part of the Jumpstart Entrepreneurial Network, which includes not only Jumpstart, but a number of strategic partners, including all the other Edison incubators in the region, BioEnterprise, Ohio Aerospace Institute, and then there's just lots of resources in the region, depending on what the entrepreneur's needs are at any one time, to connect folks to. And I know I'm not shy about connecting folks up to people, and all my partners are the same. So not only are we rich in all these resources and partners, but all the partners are willing to work together for the benefit of the entrepreneur. And I think that's really important too, that there's really, I don't find any kind of competition or I own that entrepreneur kind of thing. Everyone's very happy to have 4 or 5 people working with the entrepreneur to help move them ahead. This is this thing I was talking about. I'm not going to bore you with this, but the state of Ohio actually has a way that they look about how this happens. They call it the innovation continuum. And they talk about 5 steps: imagining, incubating, demonstrating, market entry, and growth and sustainability. So any of you that would be thinking about doing your own business, there's lots of ways to look at what happens, but this is what you'd go through. Imagining is you'd have an idea. So you're like, okay, I want to create an app to turn my lights on at home when I'm on the way home. So you're thinking about it. Well, who would buy that? Why is it important? What could I charge for it? Then you'd incubate. So you'd move into an incubator and you'd start working on it. So you'd start building a prototype of it. Maybe we would put some lights in your space in the incubator and connect you to the network so you could test the app. You could go outside at night and turn the lights on and make sure it works. You'd also really flesh out your business plan. Okay, so this is for workers. They're coming home late at night. There's a safety aspect. There's this and that. So you'd start building that all out. And then you demonstrate it. So that might be, maybe you get 20 or 50 people in the region to test your product for free. Or maybe you get the local Lowe's, they think it's a really cool idea and they might take it up the ladder to corporate. You get them to test it out. So you're demonstrating it. This is where I play. Most incubators focus on folks in these first 3 phases, and our goal is to get them here, which is called market entry. And market entry is when you've tested it out, you know that it works, you've designed it, you've engineered it, you've probably gone through 3 or 4 failed versions of it, you've got market feedback, you know you can make money, and so now you're actually going to start selling it. Whether that's online through the App Store, whether you've got a strategic partner, whatever, that's something that we would help you with and your team would help you figure out where you're going to sell it. And then growth and sustainability, that's just growing and making your company bigger. Yeah, so the only thing, well, not the only thing, but the thing to remember here is incubators focus on what we call pre-revenue companies. So we get companies in before they start making money. So here's what we are. I got 27 tenants in here, blah. We focus on, we're asked to focus by the state on companies that have the potential to be a $10 to $30 million company in the next 3 to 5 years. So that's why we're focused on technology. The reason the state's interested in that is because technology companies typically grow bigger, so they create more jobs, and that's what the state wants to support. My incubator has office space, it's got industrial space, I've got a couple wet labs. And then, of course, when you move into incubator, usually you get all the amenities, conference rooms, and all that kind of stuff. I also started this program called the Beta Space, especially, hopefully you guys will be interested because of students. So there's 2 components to the Beta Space, and one is it's kind of a big co-working space, and it's free of charge, open to student entrepreneurs. So folks that are in college, people that just graduated, to come and work on their businesses, and I can work with them too. But the other thing is we've signed up legal folks, legal service providers, attorneys, marketing folks, finance folks from around the region that are used to working with entrepreneurs and want to work with them for free, and so they'll give you a couple hours up front. So if you've got an idea and you think it could be patented and you don't have any clue of what it takes to patent something or whether your idea would even be patentable, you could meet with 2 or 3 patent attorneys for free, talk to them about your idea, and they could give you their feedback as to whether, yeah, it could be patented, and here's how we go through the process, and what it would cost and all that kind of stuff. So this is a video of Lindsay Sims, who was a student entrepreneur that moved into the Beta Space, and real briefly, her business is an online business that provides social media tools and consulting to renters and landlords. So folks that own big apartment buildings, one of their problems is it costs a lot to acquire someone to move in, to do all the marketing, all that. So the more they can reduce people moving out of the building, the more profitable their business is. And they typically are owned by people who are in a generation that aren't real familiar with social media tools. So she offers that service to them. So when they sign up with her, she gives them a plug-in for their Facebook page. She'll take the responsibility of posting stuff to that all the time. She creates fun events and social networking stuff at the apartment building, and she's doing real well. Actually, she signed her first tenant while she was in the Beta Space and has since moved out and has established her own company. So that's
Renters Boom is a company that helps property management, residential property managers do social media in a new way. We help them to use their social media for leasing purposes, but also to make the communications between them and their current renters a little bit better. I was working for a property management company. It's actually a nonprofit in Elyria called New Sunrise Properties. And we had these issues where I started seeing how stressful it was for the property managers to communicate with the renters on a regular basis. And I thought, how can we do this better? And in thinking about that, of course, I think about my everyday life and what do I do a good amount of the day is spend time on social media like most people my age. Oddly enough, I'm the exact average age for a renter, and so I said, well, what can we do with this company within New Sunrise to kind of make that happen better? And that's basically where the idea came from, is how do we make the communication better? And then from there it kind of grew into doing leasing as well as doing communications. I did not know that I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always thought I was going to be an academic because I am a very research-oriented person. But when I moved here, I joined the Cleveland Professional 2030 Club and did their business plan competition in order to make friends because I didn't know anyone when I moved here in 2008. And I won the competition, and I think that there was something in me that totally awakened during that process where I went, wait a second, I can do something else. So even though I didn't start a business from winning that competition, because I didn't really join the competition to start a business, I joined it to meet people. I think I was bitten, and then when this opportunity presented itself with Renters Boom, I just jumped right in. The beta space has been immensely helpful to me. It was kind of that perfect place for me to be when I was transitioning from idea and a little bit of practice to practice, and it's been a great experience for that, and I am totally grateful, and I love the time that I've spent here. I am graduating from the space and moving on to my own office in the Agora on Euclid Avenue at 5000 Euclid Avenue. I had this wonderful experience. My first client, we're talking about how they have offices available, and it became one of those kind of serendipitous moments where they had space, and I was thinking about transitioning into an office, and it kind of came together. But I wouldn't even have that client if it were not for the meetings that I had here. So it's a great little serendipitous moment where being in this space kind of led me to the ability to have my own space.
So as I talked before, our particular focus in the incubator at Magnet is advanced engineering companies and companies that need manufacturing help. So for us, that's medical device companies. And actually, to your question, a lot of folks, even if they're maybe don't think of themselves as a manufacturing company, one of the big things is they still make a product. And it's one thing to make a prototype of your product in the garage or your kitchen at home, but then when you think of turning that into a business, hopefully you're making and selling 10,000 or 100,000 of those at a time. So designing and engineering a product to make 10 and 100,000 of them at one time is a lot different than making a prototype at home, and that's what we help folks with a lot too. So we have a full engineering department on site. We have senior engineers. I don't know if you've heard of this thing called rapid prototyping or additive manufacturing. We can actually, once your product is put in electronic format, or what they call a CAD file or a CAM file, you can actually feed that into a machine that has, and it's basically a printer, except it prints polymers. And so it'll actually just start printing layer by layer, and what it does is it prints the positive aspects of your product from the ground up. So if you had, say, an image of a human skull, and you fed it into one of these rapid prototyping machines, it would start printing layer by layer, and it would just build up, and at the end, you'd have a human skull sitting there. So it's great for prototyping because it's relatively inexpensive and it's relatively fast versus the old days when you would kind of take a big block of metal and cut away all the stuff that you don't want to be there to end up with a skull. So we can do that, and we have a machine shop. All this says is entrepreneurs come to us, they have an idea of a product they want to make and sell, they have no clue how to do that, and so we take them through the whole process. So we can help them think about their product, we can help them design it, engineer it, we can help them with customer feedback and think about why would a customer want this, and what do we need to change about it, and we can help them prototype it, and what's called design for manufacturability. So that issue of how do we make this best so that when you go to enter your markets and you need to make 100,000 of them, that it's engineered the best way. So this is a company, OsteoSymbionics, that I mentioned skulls. That's actually what they do. She's in there. She has a team of, she's kind of cool because she does it both digitally and non-digitally or analog, but she basically, if you were in an accident or had surgery and a huge portion of your skull was removed, she would get that CAT scan from a doctor. She would basically build a model of your skull with the hole in it, and then her team of medical artists, they build, I call it plug and play, she always laughs when I say that, but they build a replacement that they ship to the doctor that drops right in your skull. It's a perfect fit. So it's good, not only does something have to go there, right? You can't walk around with a hole in your head, But from a cosmetic perspective too, depending on where that happens, if it's in the front here or on the side, there's a couple muscles on your temple that if you lose those, that's what happened to that Gabby Gifford who got shot. If some of her pictures, you see a big concave portion of her skull on the side. That's what happened. One of these muscles got cut out, and so that drops in. So she helps folks cosmetically. So we help her with some prototyping. But what I want to talk about here is, if you guys are thinking about jobs in entrepreneurship, she actually employs medical artists. So she's hired folks. She's hired students that she's met just walking across the campus of the Cleveland Institute of Art. So entrepreneurship, you can get into entrepreneurship not just through MBAs or business. There's lots of different ways to get into entrepreneurship and work in startup companies.
OsteoSymbionics makes products for the reconstruction of the face and skull. Our lead product is a patient-specific implant for reconstruction of the face and skull. This particular individual had a trauma, and as you can see, they lost most of their forehead and the orbital roof. So we designed an implant that specifically fits in the defect and restores their anatomy, everything from the roof of the orbit to the forehead. And we do it in such a way that there's a very smooth transition between the implant and the skull, so that there's a minimum of scarring, which would be very important to a person such as this with a forehead injury where everything is visible when they're in a conversation. One of the things I'm very proud of with our company is we have both state-of-the-art digital technology for the design of implants, but we also do it old school, where we actually have artists sit down and sculpt the design of the implant. And there's a place for both methodologies. At the end of the day, whether you're doing digital design or you're hand sculpting it, it's still the eyes of the creator in terms of exactly what that design should be. Digital is just a tool. So you still have to have the eyes and the visualization to make the best possible product. So our company has room for digital and analog, and it has room for artists as well as engineers. It's the mix of that entire milieu of people. Cleveland, Ohio has been a fantastic place for our company. Our company uses imaging technology, it uses materials technology, it uses engineering technology, and it uses artistry. I think we've hired graduates of just about every educational program in Northeast Ohio, including the Cleveland Institute of Art. The thing that I'm most proud of is the universe of top hospitals around the country that use our products. And I'm very proud of the reflection of quality that represents, and I'm very, very proud of the patients that we actually help. You know, at the end of the day, as we go through our life, I always use the analogy of being an old woman in a rocking chair. When I'm an old woman in a rocking chair looking back on my life, what do I want to remember? And I like to think that I helped make the world a better place during my time here. And so our products are all about doing that, and I'm very, very proud of that.
Okay, so this is just another way of looking at how we help entrepreneurs. If you remember that innovation continuum, we talked about imagining, incubating, and demonstrating. We've kind of aligned how we help folks in those stages. So when you're just imagining, you don't want to pay $20,000 for someone to design your products. We help you with your business plan. We connect you to lawyers, like I said, that can help you with the patent work for free. We also have this thing called an engineering lunch, where you buy lunch for our engineering department, and you've got them all in a room for an hour and a half. So you can kind of throw out what your design is, what a technical problem is, and they'll like completely brainstorm ideas for you for an hour and a half. Those have been real successful. You talked earlier about investing in companies. We don't invest in companies, but we do from time to time have a pool of money that we can use to help folks move their product along to pay for engineering services. We just ran a competition, we call them the Impact Awards. So we just ran a competition in the fall and handed out $120,000. So we were able to help 4 companies pay for projects to engineer their product. So the question is, for folks that are trying to get patent help, do we also help them with that? We can. We have in the past a little bit, especially on the student side, because you're right, it can be expensive. We're not the only organization in town that hands out money, and there are actually a couple organizations that specialize in helping folks in those early stages. And a lot of the colleges and universities around the region have competitions too, where the final prize or the top 2 prizes might be something in the realm of $5,000. I know there's a business plan competition. There's a group of universities called the Entrepreneurship Educational Consortium, and they have a joint business plan competition, and the first prize, I believe, is $5,000 or $6,000 that. So we have in the past helped folks, but there are lots of other ways to get that money. So I guess I got to start wrapping up. So bioelectrics, they're a company that just moved in. They're kind of cool too. There's technology that shows that very small electrical currents kill bacteria. So what they're doing is, and we're helping them develop the prototypes, they're developing a mouthpiece. You basically put it in your mouth. If you've got really bad gum disease and your dentist says you got to have gum surgery, really painful, they cut skin off the top of your mouth and they stitch it into your gums, so you don't want to do that. So what their thing would do is the dentist would give you this and you'd pop it in your mouth a couple times a day, turn it on, runs this really weak electrical current across your gums, kills the bacteria, hopefully your gums start to heal and you don't have to have the gum surgery.
Bioelectrics is a medical device developer, and we are creating an innovative medical device that treats severe forms of gum disease, both painlessly and non-invasively. And our device uses very tiny amounts of electrical stimulation to kill the bacteria associated with gum disease. At Bioelectrics, we met Dave Crain through the Innovation Fund out at Lorain County Community College, and he informed us of Magnet's capabilities on the engineering side and the prototyping side. And Dave had suggested that if we encountered any technical difficulties during our design phase, that we should contact Magnet, and they would be willing to host an engineering lunch for us, where we would buy the staff lunch and they would provide input for an hour and a half on whatever technical challenges we faced. So it just so happened at that time there was one issue we were working on our prototypes, and we decided to take Dave up on his offer. They had tremendous feedback, and at that point, the managers of Bioelectrics, we sat down and said, you know, these guys really have tremendous input. Let's start working with them on assisting with some of our design work as well as our prototyping. So we've been working with Magnet now for over a year, and they've helped us, you know, design molds, develop prototypes, provide input on, you know, a whole range of services. So Magnet has helped us tremendously address many of our engineering challenges. So one of the difficulties being a startup company, we don't necessarily have the funds to hire engineers full-time. So Magnet provides us with the ability to access a wealth of knowledge on an as-needed basis. And with all the different experiences that their engineers have, we found it tremendously helpful when looking at inexpensive ways to design our Oriflow units as well as develop prototypes. We're hoping to be on the market sometime in 2014, which is, you know, a ways away for most products, but for medical devices that's relatively fast. So I think in the next 5 years, you know, I hope that we would be one of the new innovative treatments for gum disease, or periodontal disease as it's known, available in your local dental office.
So what's interesting about that is that was existing research, existing technology. They're just commercializing it. So they didn't invent this. They're just taking that, and they thought of the commercial application for that, and they're making the product, and we're helping them do that. So they should be on the market hopefully next year. Like a lot of incubators, I'm focused on economic development. I'm asked by the state to track 3 things: revenue, outside investment, and jobs. 2011, the numbers don't look very good because that was right in the depths of the recession, but we generally run around $5 million, $5 to $10 million of revenue generated. My past year is a lot better. Around $2 to $3 million of outside investment coming into my companies. And then jobs have been all over the place. You see only 14 jobs in 2011. I think in 2010 there was 40 jobs created by the companies in my incubator. So they go up and down. Right now in about 27 companies employing about 50 people in the incubator. And then you guys know all about this because you've heard the presentation. I'm sure John told you to go to the Jumpstart Network. If any of you are interested in being an entrepreneur, if you're interested in student resources, how you get plugged into this thing called the Gen, go to this website right here, jumpstartnetwork.org. It's got all kinds of information about my program, all the programs around the region, how to get into the system, who to talk to, what you can do as a student. And so I think that's it. Any